The skating lesson is brought to you by Audible, where you can listen to audiobooks of your favorite titles, including Alone by Bill Jones, The Triumph and Tragedy of John Curry. Enter the code TSL Visionaries 20 at checkout for a free audiobook for new Audible members. Alone is also the January book club selection for the TSL Visionaries Book Club. To join this community, you can subscribe by selecting the Join button on YouTube. The Join button is to the left of where you hit subscribe beneath a YouTube video. If you would prefer to join the community on Facebook, please click the link in the description box below.
All right, I'm ready. And we are... Okay. Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees, and I'm thrilled to welcome Meagan Duhamel to help me break down the 2024 Canadian Figure Skating Championships.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks for accepting my invitation to be on your show.
I was so excited. I was like, yes, let's do this. Let's.
Well, Skate Canada doesn't want me to be part of their team, and I had all the thoughts and all the feelings on the national championships. I watched every skater. So yeah, I feel like I have a lot to say, and Skate Canada doesn't. So I asked you if you wanted to hear it.
Well, Meagan, I want to see you and KMT commentate together. Listen. Differing opinions, I think it would be fascinating, right? Just to hear people actually debate on the broadcast, because I wanted to start with the coverage. There was no TV coverage this year, and it was in Calgary, and apparently it's super, super, super unbelievably cold there.
Yeah, Alberta's having like a cold front, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think the weather had anything to do with anything at nationals.
I don't, the lighting was...
Because I've been to some cold nationals in the past. In
Yeah.
Saskatoon and in Winnipeg and in awfully cold places.
So what do you think it is? Because I've been hearing rumblings for the last several months about both USFS and both Skate Canada, both struggling financially. And for, both, it seems like it's an offshoot of COVID. Numbers were down. Things have just gotten worse and worse and worse, right? Things for skating. So what is your take on all of it?
I think that first, it's really unfortunate for the skaters of this generation right now. Because when I think about myself as a junior skater, at my first junior nationals, Elvis Stoico was still competing. This was 2002. It was the prime time skating. So I really feel a little bit sad for the skaters of today that was their nationals experience. I remember as a young skater, my coach, Lee Barkel, he told me when I was going to my first nationals, no competition will ever be as big as nationals. He's it's bigger than worlds. That he told me that you'll never experience something like this again, because at the time it was. At the time we were selling out 12,000, 16,000 seats. There was so much media, so much TV. The TV coverage is, I don't really know the details. I work with CBC for TV. We didn't get Grand Prix coverage either. But apparently there's going to be Worlds coverage, I'm told. So fingers crossed. Talking about commentators debating, Caitlin Osman and Ted,
they were good.
Were very entertaining in the men's event.
Yeah.
Caitlin
Osman is a good...
I felt like she was pushing his buttons a bit, and I loved it. She would say something and he would say the opposite, and she'd be like, no, I saw this. And it was really fun. But I think it's there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, the powers that be at Skate Canada really invested in whatever way they knew how. The top skaters of my generation, and they kind of left below the top ones, to fend for themselves.
Okay.
And that's not the way you create champions. So I think that's a little bit of it. I think a little bit of it, and Bruno just brought this up to me. He really wants me to mention this, and I do agree. He said that the year of COVID, we had our nationals canceled, and we did this really silly online competition.
Yeah.
And while we were streaming it online, the same weekend, US was holding a national championships in Vegas, and it was on NBC.
Yeah.
So already the way we were showcasing our sports during this time, Skate Canada was
and you guys were locked down much longer than we
were locked down a lot longer. And there was a lot of things that probably could have been happening with online opportunities that they weren't doing. But again, skating's like on NBC during the lockdown when everybody's at home doing
Yeah.
nothing but watching TV.
And let's be real, a lot of the US skaters were skating illegally during that time. There were
Well, some Canadians were too, really. But
so
like that doesn't help. And then you have like the lack of audience interest because we have a lack of star power in skating.
and then it's more expensive after COVID because the numbers
Skating
were
was more expensive. Ice is expensive. Like the costs have gone up. And they, you know, they were selling a ticket for $95. If you're a family of 4, are you going to spend almost $400 to watch what you just watched?
No.
I wouldn't, and I'm a huge skating fan, and I'm sorry, I wouldn't spend that money on that.
I wouldn't on it because listen, I always debate, like, am I going to go cover nationals there or here, right? And what is better? And in an Olympic year, like, it's good to go, right? Like, I remember being so bummed that the Skate America that was in Lake Placid happened Thanksgiving weekend because there's just like no way with my family that I could go and then survive that for the rest of the year, right? Yes, right. Like that just wasn't an option, right? But things are different for different situations, right? And it was it's hard because there are a couple really good skaters that you want to see, but it's hard to get excited. I mean, I heard from someone yesterday that Jason Brown is apparently skating extremely well in practice, but he didn't skate well earlier in the season. And besides Ilya Malinin, it's like, okay, who are you going to watch in the men's event? Right? Like our guys are not reliable. And
this has been happening for a long time. Like in Canada, we have medalists that don't try triple axels.
Yes.
US is going to have like this random 11th place finisher that does 2 triple axels.
Yes. The other thing in Canada that I've always noticed is that when you were competing, and I think you made a good point about the financial support of the top skaters, it always seemed like Canada is very comfortable having like one top skater per discipline, and that there's like a clear pecking order. And sometimes there was like 2 top skaters, like in the women's event or when you were in pairs, but I've often noticed that there's like one anointed skater, but they don't have the competitive depth. Like the competition isn't as...
I'm going to be clear also. The funding for Canadian skaters comes from a program called Own the Podium. It does not come from Skate Canada.
Okay.
My funding never came from Skate Canada, only like flights to competitions, like hotels at competitions and that type of stuff. Like, well, for nationals, you have to pay for your own flight and hotel. But the funding came from a program called Own the Podium, which was created for the Vancouver Olympics. And the closer your ranking in the world is to a world medal, the more money you got. So if you're 6th in the world, but you're 8 points from a podium, you will get a lot of funding from Own the Podium.
Okay.
So I don't know how much Own the Podium supports the skaters right now, but when I skated, that's how it was.
So wait, when you were 7th in 2017, did your funding go down significantly?
Yes.
Okay.
But we had medaled at the Grand Prix final, so like it went down, but not that much. It went down. And then you have a funding allotment, and then we got an allotment of money for off-ice like training and services. So like when I went to the gym, if I wanted to buy like a gym membership, I could use this funding to buy that. If I went for an osteo appointment, massage, physio, acupuncture, I had this funding, and I had a certain amount. And once it was used, it was done for the year. So like I was trying to use it like sparsely, and then sometimes it would be like the end of the season and I had like a little bit left. So I was like, oh, I'm going to like treat myself to a massage like every 2 weeks instead of every week or something right now, because I have this funding sitting there. And if I don't get used, it just gets returned. It doesn't stay with me.
Also, I think for the average person, they're going to hear massage and think of like a luxury. But when you're an
no.
landing throws, like how much do you need that massage to actually...
Oh my God, like you're like crying.
Yeah.
And I love like a super strong sports massage, but like it's at the point like you want to cry and it hurts so bad, but you know your body needs it. And it's like, this is a good pain. This is a good pain. No, these are like sports therapists, like my massage therapist. Any Canadian viewers, she worked with Claire Hughes. She traveled around Canada with Claire Hughes when Claire Hughes was on her tour across Canada. These are like very, very high profile sports therapists that we worked with.
I know
we have like an allotment for that, and then the allotment for like your training expenses. And then the rest of the time you relied on prize money, or you're working and paying for it yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting. In
I was
gymnastics,
6th in the world and I had a full-time job.
what was
Like
your full-time
a
job? You were-
Russian or Chinese or Japanese skater would like laugh at me, and I was like, no, I have to go home now and go to work.
What were you working at that point?
My last like job at that point was I was a nanny.
Okay.
So I would finish training at 1 o'clock, and I'd go work as a nanny till like 11 o'clock at night for 2 kids that lived in Montreal from Paris. And they were amazing. I worked with them even when I was still skating with Eric at the beginning. I was still working as a nanny.
Yeah, it's incredible because I think it's getting to that point where people are going to have to think about group lessons and making skating more affordable in a lot of different ways of.
And like coaching is already a lot cheaper in Canada than it is in the States. So,
Yeah,
like
so
for
here
American
in New
viewers,
Jersey,
you hear about the budget for skating. Like I see these things like Gracie Gold spent $10,000 on a costume, and I'm like, I spent $600 on my costumes. Like you don't have to spend $10,000.
but like here it's 120 an hour is like standard unless you have some sort of a deal with the coach because you're taking so many lessons, right? And then, but every time a coach makes a concession for a skater, it breeds resentment with the parents, and then it goes wrong. I mean, it's just it's really expensive and really.
And I don't know any coach in Canada that charges that. So
Yeah,
skating
I mean,
in Canada is cheaper than the States, but it is still expensive. If that make like if I can say that.
Yeah. And listen, it's not 120 an hour everywhere, but in New Jersey, that's like a very standard rate.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And that's
Yeah.
like even like at a very low level coach.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it's not like a low level coach, but it's, you know, if someone's like a novice or
Not like a
junior,
world
yeah,
class.
not like a world level, right? Yeah. So it's hard, and there are definitely numbers that have gone down after COVID, but I have to say, like, watching the men's event, it felt strange because for so many of the men, there's a wide open opportunity to do well. But how many years have we watched Konrad Orzel, Stegan Gogolev, Roman Sadovsky, like on and on and on, right? Like I'm like even blanking on like certain names. Each one has like a clear road ahead to the podium, right? But it seems like, and this happened actually in the US as well, people rise to the level of competition. It's strange, but when there isn't that pressure that if you skip a run through, you're gonna, you know, fall 20 places, people start putting in less effort, and like they let the excuses come in rather than that relentless determination. And when we were watching the men's event last night, it really seemed that a lot of those guys had not done full run throughs, or maybe like certainly hadn't trained them regularly, you know.
It really felt like a summer competition. The level of quite a lot, like even out of the men's event. A lot of the skating I watched was like, I feel like I'm watching a July competition. And I did have thoughts about why that's happening. Was it happening because people didn't compete enough?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking here in Ontario, for skaters like on their way to nationals, but they don't do the Grand Prix yet. We had a competition in Ottawa in July, Kitchener in August, Barrie, which is just outside of Toronto, in October. Then you had sectionals, then you had challenge, then you had Canadians. That's 6 events, one every month, pretty much. Then you had the ones in Montreal that weren't that far away and everything. I don't know any skaters that did all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at a Maddie Schizas, who I love. Nothing against her. I love her. I like so much support to her. She did Nebula Trophy, Skate Canada, Cup of China. So Canadians was her 4th event. Cup of China was in November.
Mm-hmm.
You had challenge in December. Why didn't she go?
I don't know. She's a skater.
I don't know. And this is like, regardless of being sent to international competitions, there's plenty of opportunities to compete at home that I do not think the skaters and in part the coaches are utilizing. Why are they not? Like Eric and I did this George Etche competition every year at the end of September. And like, it didn't matter. We're world champions. We did that competition because it was an important place to start our season and to make sure we competed more regularly.
Mhm. Well, you also, I mean, both times that I saw you train, you were training at a very high level, August, September,
Yeah.
right? And I see a lot of skaters that whenever I start to hear even fans make the excuse, it's early in the season,
No.
and you think, no.
Every competition is as important as the next. And I remember at Skate Canada, my last season, it was a really strong event, and Skate Canada offered, like, do you want to go to a different Grand Prix? Skate Canada is really strong. Like, you can go like to a later event. And I was like, we have to show up and be ready no matter where we go, and we have to compete against these people eventually. So no, we'll just show up in October and be at our best. And you just knew
That's
that
the
you
year
had to
you won
do
an
that.
Olympic medal. I mean, you won an Olympic medal that season when you
And
wanted.
you just knew you needed to do that. Like, yeah. I also wonder, like, okay, looking at that men's event, I don't question how hard everybody works.
I do. I do.
Everybody's working as hard as they know how. I want to believe.
I don't think they're intentionally not working
Yes.
hard, but sometimes I think people think they're working harder than they are based on the standards of the people they're training with.
And I
Right?
also think, like, they don't work smart.
Yeah.
There's working hard and there's working smart.
Mhm.
Working smart is like being very diligent about like your checklist of things that you have to do. Covering all your bases. I always said, like, it's like a puzzle. You need, as an athlete, no matter what sport. So we're talking skating. A skater needs every piece of the puzzle to be in place. If one piece is missing, you're not going to be successful.
Mhm.
You want any chance to be successful, you have to have every piece of that puzzle in place.
Mhm.
So like at one point, it was like we thought we had like every puzzle in place. And then it's like, well, maybe we should work with an acting coach that could help our performance availability. Like, it's like that puzzle piece wasn't there. We needed to take it and put it there. It was our job to finish the puzzle. And I just don't know, like, how many skaters or coaches really like look at things like that. It seems so simple to me, though. Maybe they do. I don't
I
know.
wonder what the goals are too. Like when I watch Roman Sadovsky's vlogs, I look at him and I think, okay, this boy has such a natural glide. He's got gorgeous extension. He actually gets very high in the air, right? He has the right, like he can act, he can perform, he can do these things. And yet I don't see the intensity that it would take. And when he competes, it looks a little bit deer in the headlights and a lack of preparation. And this was again his first competition,
In a
which
year.
in a year. And I thought, well, did you seek out other opportunities to compete? Because everything has gone wrong with his. Obviously, he had an injury, and then the travel, and then the snowstorm, and then this. But it just didn't look that he created ways to apply pressure to himself. This boy has a YouTube channel, right? That he's trying to do. He could say, "I'm going to do a live event Friday. I didn't get to compete this year. I'm going to do a long program, and you're all going to watch."
Yeah.
Skaters are like so afraid of thinking that way, but it's like that would actually get you prepared because it's the same thing as competition, actually.
And I
you
know he
did
had
it.
like all the mishaps that like could possibly happen this season, but he's competed like this for years, even when he was competing all season. So I'm not sure we can use the excuse of like, is his first event of the season, because when it's his 10th event of the season, it's usually much of the same.
So I
And
was
it's
shocked.
unfortunate because I feel like he's so talented. He has everything.
So
He has
we interviewed him on
the one
TSL.
puzzle piece that's missing is that mental strength in competition.
Well, yes, and I don't know if his coaches are real with him because when we had him on TSL Live during the pandemic, or whenever he didn't make nationals because of the short program, I just asked him directly, and he was shocked. And it was basically like, what are you going to do to get the short, become stronger in the short program? And it was like a shocked answer, but that was just like the sky is
Like, it's
blue.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
I
don't
don't,
know.
Roman's one of the skaters, like, I don't know personally really at all. I kind of just see what you all see.
Mhm.
This really, really talented, amazing, beautiful skater that doesn't deliver.
Mhm.
And I wonder if it frustrates us more than it frustrates him. You can't, like, I always do say, like, you can't change somebody's personality either.
But he
But
has
he's just like
skated well.
uber relaxed and carefree. He can't change that. That's who he is.
Mhm. But can the coach do things to make him more confident by upping the standards of his training plan, saying you need to do this many programs per week, right? We're going to record this program. I mean, if
and it's like simple strategies. Like he did all 3 jumps in the first half of his short. The halfway point of a short comes at like a minute 20. That's the halfway point of your short. You should be able to do 1 jump at 1 minute and 20 seconds into your program.
Yes, at this level, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're doing it
in a long program, you do most of your jumps after 1 minute and 20 seconds. Why can't you do it in a short?
Yeah.
So like sometimes strategy like that frustrates me.
Frustrated, but it seems like an epidemic among this group of guys. But again, I don't think that they have the pressure because I think they all know that the other ones are going to underachieve, so they don't have to work as hard, which is why I think if I were Skate Canada and I were Mike Slipchuk, I would look at that men's event and be like, that was a disaster. Each one of you needs to send me a full long program each week. And frankly, we're going to post it online so that everybody can watch how everybody is training. And we're going to build engagement and we're going to build, because guess what happens? If fans and other skaters start watching how everyone's doing, they're all going to raise their level of competition. And then everybody's going to become invested in it, right? That's what happened at the ranch with the Carolis. Like they had accountability. Everybody had to see how everybody else was training all the time. So then they all raised their game consistently. I mean, there were a lot of other bad things that happened, but that element of it and that accountability bred harder training, and
I mean, I agree with that. I think that's definitely part of the problem. I think another part is like, they simply don't compete enough.
Yeah.
They simply, not one skater is utilizing all the opportunities they have to compete in their like chosen area of Canada, number one. And number two, they're definitely not utilizing all these other opportunities to compete at senior Bs and whatever else. Conrad went, I believe, I may be wrong, like anybody feel free to attack me if I'm wrong. I believe he did 1 senior B and 1 Grand Prix. Why wasn't he sent to like another senior B? Why did Roman get named to Golden Spin? Conrad should have been there too. And Wesley.
Conrad's in college, and I don't know if that's impeding what he's doing, but at the same time, these are things that they need to plan, especially because Conrad has like so many gifts in skating, but he always looks at the last second a little bit deer in the headlights. And we know Ravi makes skaters train pretty hard.
Ravi does make a skater. Like nobody can ever say Ravi skaters don't train hard. Like he's a stickler for that. And he's very like old fashioned and old school with the run throughs and everything like that.
So I would be curious with Conrad, like what's going on? Like what other pieces do they have to address? Right. In terms of that.
Have they done it all? Like at the end of a competition that doesn't go your way, as a skater and as a coach, and I mean, as a federation, you got to sit back and like, okay, what did we hit? What did we miss? Why? And what do we do?
But isn't that what everybody does after a competition?
I mean, like, I thought so. It just like, I did it in the freaking kiss and cry after every competition. Like I thought it was just like a normal thing, but I'm learning, Dave, that it's not that normal. I just thought everybody did it.
I redid. I got it. My toe loop was messed up. I messed up a lot once and like had to rethink your program and your elements and what you can do and came up with a plan like a couple hours later, like had figured it out. Like it's a strategy for people. You have to constantly be checking in on what is going on, but they don't seem to have that competitive mindset. I'm confused if some of them actually enjoy skating or if they don't know what they want to do and they know that they have talent, right? But I see so many boys in Canada, they don't perform. They skate to blah, depressing music that doesn't seem to inspire them. And then
I really liked Conrad's free skate music.
Yeah.
That was a standout.
Yes. Yes. But like many of them, have you ever seen Steven Gogolev perform?
Oh no, he looks miserable. Absolutely miserable.
Miserable. Like, and then how is an audience member supposed to watch someone who looks miserable, let alone a judge?
Well, that came on Friday. I watched like all the short programs. And I was so angry that night. Like I was so riled up, I couldn't even go to sleep. And I've been that angry once in my life. And it was when Plushenko beat Kevin Reynolds in the team event in Sochi. Kevin Reynolds had the skate of his life, did 3 quads, and Plushenko like melted down and he still beat him. I had a lot of rage about that. And I had like so much anger on Friday after the short program events at Canadians. And I was like talking to my mom about it, and I was talking to Bruno, and I even like I went so far. I was like, Bruno, like, does anybody there seem to care? I asked Bruno that. I texted him. Do the skaters, the coaches, the officials, does anybody seem to care? Like I was so mad. And he was like, Meagan, just because they skate bad doesn't mean they care. Like he was trying to rationalize with me. But looking back, when I woke up the next day and I was thinking about that anger I had on Friday, it really stemmed because I felt like you're saying with the men's event, I felt like 90% of the skaters like had no energy, gave no performance, and looked like they would have rather been somewhere else. And they looked unprepared for the biggest event of their season.
So I knew that it was going to be a bad
And that
event.
was frustrating.
I knew it was going to be a bad event when the Nikolaj Sorensen news broke and Skate Canada didn't have a strong statement about it, and which showed that they were unprepared, which also showed that their communications director or whoever is running like needs either a better support staff or other people. Like it means that there are problems within the organization.
Yeah.
And then they just seemed to have no set strategy on whether or not they were going to compete, and it went on way too long. Like in communications, you don't want Christine Brennan to write like a follow-up article before you've taken
Why not
charge.
just answer her? That's what I don't understand.
It's a lack of, because you need an
Why not even just answer like, we support any victim. We are,
Yes.
This story is ongoing. Like something
They
like
should have said it in the broadcast, and they didn't say it in the broadcast, which is a way of being like, right? But that thing is, for any parent who's watching Skate Canada, right, around the country, they need to know that Skate Canada takes abuse seriously, right? And that they're going to investigate. That's not saying that someone's guilty or innocent. They're going to say, we are going to look into this, right? But by not saying that on TV, it seems either they're afraid
on
of
the
it.
computer. But yes, I know.
On the computer, yes, but still, how many people in skating are watching that on the computer, right? This is still a big deal for younger skaters, people that are coming up, parents that are spending their money in this. And then you're going to say this organization is either sweeping it under the rug or they're completely inept and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you're like,
yeah, I don't think that silence was the right answer. I think that support to the victim, to any victim of sexual assault,
it wasn't for the International Academy
was
of
the right
Montreal.
answer. It didn't have to say something is correct or incorrect, but just a message of support to any victims in these situations would have been the right thing to do if I was in that message.
I mean, the fact that none of the International Academy of Montreal coaches said anything after they have talked about being like the golden example in figure skating caused their reputation to nosedive, right? Therefore, then when Nikolaj Sorensen is making a statement, people are like, oh, Marie-France liked it. You see where she stands. Like that's a disaster for that organization.
Yeah, that's not a good place to be.
No. And that makes them look inept as well. So, and it really tarnishes the brand that they've built. It's weird, but the last time that Worlds were supposed to be in Montreal, that's when Papadakis and Cizeron, things really started to happen, and her anxiety was really building at that point in time. That they lost to
they lost Europeans.
They lost Europeans. It was the same caller 4 years later. And what else happened at Europeans? Kevin Amos didn't make the free skate 4 years ago. It meltdown, and it's weird how that happened again.
Funny.
Like,
I hope that we're not like coming back to a lockdown.
I was thinking that, like,
that scares me a little bit.
Yeah. And it's, so I felt, and I think Kevin Amos is a separate topic, and that was really sad, to watch and concerning. And honestly, if you watched French Nationals, you could have seen it coming, right?
It's such a shame for the skater. I think his name is Francis or Francois that didn't get to go to Europeans. Definitely would have been the smarter choice given.
I think people have to be realistic about mental health and what can change in what amount of time. right? And when that was so severe at nationals,
Well, like
and
it was pretty severe at the Grand Prix final, then it was even worse.
yes, and that he should have never been in that situation, right? And at the end of the day, the French Federation still believes that Kevin can medal, and yes, he can, but not in that state right now.
When it's
Right?
not worth it
Yeah.
to try to have a medal in that state.
Well, how is he ever going to be able to get? So now he has to rebuild with the judges for a long time, and it's like judges are judged based on if they're like correct and in line with other judges, right? So that means that there's groupthink, which means that everybody's now going to look at you sideways and then give you lower scores, and that you're going to have to re-earn your reputation by skating well.
Build momentum and
yeah, that's really hard. Yeah. So, in terms of like the men, like Wesley, who won, is he's Canada's most consistent skater. Was not surprised that he won.
yes,
but he's not a
he had
performer.
the good short. He had the really good short program.
But not a big performer, right? But he's Canada's most reliable man.
Right now, yes, he is.
Yeah.
There was like a split second before Anthony Paradis' skate issue where I was like, oh my God, is he going to be a national champion today? We'll never know. But I think that he's great for the sport, Anthony Paradis. I know you were talking about Wesley. I'll come back to him.
Yeah.
We need performers like that. We need personalities like this. I think it's amazing. I think
Meagan, he changed his nail polish between the short program and the free skate.
Yeah.
We need this kind of a personality, right?
Of course we do. We need these characters.
I don't know what was that costume. I don't know what that costume was, but
blood. I read it. It was blood to symbolize like not having your heart broken, but something else along those lines. It
was like unrequited love, right?
Yeah. It was too artsy for my mind, the explanation of it, but I still loved him. We need this.
Gift. He is a gift. All of us.
But like, he doesn't try triple axel.
No.
He did a single lutz. He did no triple combination. And he took a 5-point deduction.
And he didn't even look stressed or
and
upset.
He still came third.
Meagan,
He still came third.
If you were wasn't he second? In the third. Okay. If you were at nationals and your skate broke, wouldn't you be a little bit like intense about it? Like this is a 5
I would have been really stressed. Like I would have been sweating. He looked like so organized. He knew what to do, which like kudos to his coaches. Maybe his coaches actually like rehearsed this scenario. And we're like, if this ever happens, this is what you do. Let's practice that it happens. Maybe, I don't know, but like maybe
he seems like an artsy personality that's going to keep giving. I'm just telling you, like this.
But I really like him.
I love him.
Like there was a moment where I was like, I kind of want him to be national champion today, for like shits and giggles.
At the end of the day, he doesn't have a triple axel. You know that Anthony loves skating.
Yes, and he's going to give us the performance. Like I could count on one hand the number of skaters that had the energy and performance to captivate the 50 people that were sitting in the audience, and he was one of them.
No, I did think you're very into Waddell. I thought that great skater. You want him to do pairs, right?
Oh, Bruce Waddle.
Yeah, Waddle. Sorry.
I thought he should do pairs like as soon as he stopped dancing. He's so strong. He already knows partnering because of his experience in ice dancing. So he knows the intricacies of skating with another body and tracking a skater. And he can do enough jumps to be successful in pairs. And I've always wondered why he didn't take that path. His coach, Lee Barkell, like he is a pair coach. He was my pair coach. So I've always long wondered why he doesn't do pairs. But he is like on the shorter side for a pair skater. And he would need like a super short partner. And like super short skaters like are hard to find.
Well, let's talk about him doing pairs, because I think we've got the perfect team. I heard that like Anthony Evans was collaborating with Bruno about something at one point. I think that they should team up. You and Tara Kane should team up with the whole intense group, and we can like get some pairs going. Okay. This was good. I also don't need to know who someone's stretch coach was or anything just because they're in the Allison Perkis school. I don't know what Allison Perkis did to make KMT such a fan, but anytime an Allison Perkis skater went, I felt like I knew who their first grade teacher was. I mean, she just kept listing people that were like, it was like an award show. So,
and like everything was so amazing.
That is really bothering. Okay, so obviously you had too many opinion. This is where skating federations and everybody gets it wrong, right? So you had an opinion when you were a commentator that didn't align with the predetermined decision that the Olympic team was going to be KMT and Michael and Vanessa and Eric. So you felt and gave the opinion.
A raving review for Trenton Evelyn's clean free skate at Nationals.
Yes. Okay. But here's the thing. That would be good for the sport. Yeah.
I was told not to discuss the Olympic selections. And then they skated so well. And I was like, this skate deserves to go to the Olympics. And it was so emotional and I felt so invested. And I was like 1 or 2 months pregnant. So I was like overly emotional. And I was never asked to commentate again because I said that that's why I think anyways. I mean, why it's not. I think it was because I supported Trenton Evelyn. I felt like they should, I publicly said, I think they should go to the Olympics. And I got in a lot of trouble apparently. But mind you, I'm only guessing because nobody from Skate Canada ever told me. I contacted them the next fall to say like, oh, what's happening with the commentary stream? Do you need me? I'm making my schedule. And they were like, oh yeah, we're going to get back to you. And then they never did.
Well, the irony of that is who else was actually really flippin' pissed about Evelyn not going to the Olympics? Kirsten Moortowers.
Yeah, it was a funny, like, if they're mad at me about that, that was a funny replacement. But I mean,
but
I'm happy I work with CBC when skating's on TV. I know it's not often.
It was actually
the Olympics and work with great people. I like commentating with Kurt and yeah.
I don't get it. And I don't know if these skaters live too much on social media or what happens that they get into this mindset and they also need the job. But people need to remember that skating is a sport, right? Which doesn't mean
that you high performance sport.
Yeah.
High performance sport.
So it doesn't mean that you have to be nasty to anyone in a broadcast, but it does mean that if someone makes a mistake, you should at least discuss what it is. And you also don't have to apologize for them. You just have to say what's going on. Yeah. Oh, that fall is going to cost them a couple of points. Oh, how is that going to impact the standings? What they do, they're actually insulting the public when and the skater when they start doing like it was. And KMT's, you've never heard her speak in that upper register before, which is an indication that someone's not being authentic when you haven't heard their voice. So when someone is saying, well, it was a really good moment for them. Lots of good things there for Roman Sadovsky. Like that would be like an example. They didn't comment.
Yeah, I understand.
And you'd be like, what? They did get a little bit better for the free skate than they were for the pair short, but it was uncomfortable to watch. It was really uncomfortable because I've met Kirsten Moortowers and I don't know that she's smart and that she was a competitor, right? I would not have known that person who commentated had any experience competing or that they were a good competitor who had the kind of temerity to land throws, right? Like if you can land throws, yeah.
You need to be positive, but you can be critical at the same. You can be positively critical. And you can state facts. That mistake is going to cost them 4 points. They are losing their balance as they enter their death spiral. Like one thing about Trent and Leah in both programs, as they're setting up their death spiral before they even start, she sits on the edge and she's losing her balance. She's like moving her body and her foot is shaking. And it happened in both programs on 2 different edges, 2 different death spirals.
Why is everyone like
this is something to point out.
I gotta ask it, okay? Why are you, Tara Kane, and KMT all team Leah and Trent, like so much support behind them? Because when I watch it, I'm like, this girl doesn't perform. They don't.
I just told you like a critical comment.
Yes, you did, but like throughout the season, it's felt like they've had a lot of support, right? From
last season, I really was like, I felt like they have a lot of potential. They do. But last season they came on like kind of gangbusters. And like by worlds, like, I mean, they finished 6th at their first worlds. Like that is remarkable. I felt like, wow, like they're the future. Like this, they have a lot of years left in them. They're really great. They're doing the big jump combo. They've already like nailed these throws. It seemed like the next thing they needed to do was get great programs. But then this season they showed up and they, in my opinion, and I mean, it doesn't mean I'm right or I'm wrong. This is just my opinion. They didn't show up with great material. So then it's like, oh, they didn't do what they needed to do. And now they're not as consistent. And it's like to me, like some of the little things that were missing last year, but you could forgive it because it was the first season, are still there. And now it's like, okay, well, those, like the connection between them, they don't really look at each other when they skate, losing their balance on the entry edge to these death spirals, like moving the body, bobbling as you're going down into the death spirals. And now they're just a little bit less consistent, probably because they feel pressure. But last year they were a really exciting team to kind of come out of nowhere because they did. And I think like a lot of us had like this extra love for Trent because we felt so bad for him from the season before.
I get that. I think with them, she has phenomenal throw landings. I will say her back and her leg, like she really exudes confidence in a way that's really helped them with the judges.
She does.
I think that they could both work on their lines, and the tight shoulders, like they really need to work with an eccentrics coach, a Pilates coach off ice, because it actually hurts your skating, it hurts your lines, it hurts your body movement, it limits your technique, and there are things that they need to work on structurally. That is fixable. It seems that there just needs to be better, more strategic coaching of this team. To me, it just doesn't look great. And I never felt that Trent and Evelyn were really packaged and coached at a level that was going to get them where they needed to go. To me, they were always clearly behind the other top team. And, the skating skills weren't what they needed to be in order to be competitive outside of Canada. And I think the same thing with this team. Pair skating has gotten so much more competitive this year over the last 6 months.
But I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I agree to a certain extent with a lot of it. But I do think that like when a new team kind of like shows up like gangbusters and just shows up and they're consistent and they're great and they kind of came out of nowhere, like it was exciting. And then all of a sudden you had like a few good teams in Canada and that was fun. But you're right. This year, I think that some of the things that like to me seemed like obvious, I'm sure they're working on it. It just hasn't materialized yet. So then it's like, well, why isn't it materializing? So that's like frustrating to me as a viewer.
To me, I'm looking at the field and I'm thinking, well, the Russians are coming back, whether they're coming back for Russia or they're moving to Georgia or they're moving, like they are finding ways right? Like they're finding ways to compete one way or another.
Yeah.
And I think, this is a team that has a really solid base, but I think they need to start working on the details for next year. The lines, the programs, looking at each other.
Like the interaction between the two of them.
Yes. Yeah. And that I think is really a weakness.
And I do think on the day at the Canadian Championships, Kellyanne and Lucas, who finished third, delivered stronger performances in both the short and the long program. I believe.
How about your girl Fiona? What are
performance and execution from those two standpoints? The other team was a step above this weekend.
There was a comment for you because I posted to Facebook, but people wanted to know your thoughts on Fiona and potential and kind of what's going on. Yeah.
Well, I think like last year she had a lot of potential when she came to Oakville and she wanted to do pairs. And of course, like I did both disciplines. I know I bombed Canadians my first year doing both disciplines too. That when you do two disciplines, you don't give 100% to either one. That's the reality. You can't because you don't have 200% to be giving. So that's like a problem number one. And I think Problem number 2 is a little bit of the mindset of that elite athlete, whatever it takes mindset. I'm not saying she doesn't have it, but I don't think she's fully, if she does have it, she's not fully utilizing it at this moment. So I think she has to pick a discipline and do whatever it takes to be successful at that discipline. And that might take like not dedication, because every skater that's competing at the national level is very dedicated.
It's like a mental commitment.
It's like that little extra of everything. You have to give that little extra here, that little extra there, that little extra here, that little extra there. And all those little extras add up at the end of the day.
It's a determination, right?
Like when my coach said, do 2 more throw triple lutzes, I did 4. When I was at the gym and they said, like, do 8 sprints on the treadmill, I did 10. And all those little extras added up at the end of the day. When my coach just said you have to get more flexible, I hired a flexibility coach. Like, it's just like all these little things add up.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, I mean, I've seen it in my own preparation and over in like own development. Like it all matters, right? And it all adds up. And the quality, even the quality of your off ice person matters. Like you don't just need like a Pilates teacher. You need like a good Pilates teacher, right? Like
you need everything. You need somebody that's working on your strength and your cardio. You need somebody that's working on your movement in some type of like dance movement class. You need the Pilates eccentrics. You need the acting. You need all of it. You need all of it.
Yeah. Okay. Deanna and Max started the season Skate Canada really strong, but we have
even Autumn Classic. Really.
Yes. Okay. First of all, Deanna felt we were too critical of her last year on the show. Are you a Deanna fan or not? Can you let's talk this out, because this was a bone of contention. And I mean, I have gotten many. The angriest texts I've ever gotten have been from pair girls.
From Eric.
Oh, and Eric. But no, that even like Eric being annoyed about something, no. Some of the pair girls, I will they will come.
Really?
Yes.
Well, never from me. So.
We posted a clip of Tara Kane joking that saying like, maybe your wedding song, but it's your free skate music, but like, what if your free skate goes bad that year? Is that going to ruin your wedding song? Alexa didn't like that.
Oh,
Chris laughed. She did not. Okay, like you gotta watch those pair girls. Like
that was so funny, because you told me that, like, why don't you like Deanna? And I was like, you text me that.
I said, I'm going to ask you if you like.
Yeah, and I was like, what are you talking about? I messaged her after almost every competition to like congratulate her or send her encouragement if it didn't go well. And her coach. I do it to her coach too. Like, I'm like one of her biggest fans. Even dating back to her 6.0 at the Carrie Lotion Classic. Yeah. So it's super strange to me that she thinks I don't like her. And then I was like, Kate, what did we say the last time? And I believe the last time all we talked about was that they needed to maximize their jump combo and do another axle at the end,
which she's now doing.
But like, that was just like obvious. She knew it. There's no way she didn't know it.
Listen, I think you're a skater.
I love her.
Listen, when you're 4th at Worlds, I think you're angry at everyone for like a long time.
When you're 4th, yeah, that's a hard place to be. That's a hard place to be.
Like, that's just brutal, right? I think, and then they raised and they got so much better after that. But I think it's brutal in general. I think that you might not be a right skater.
Like 4th at the Olympics or 4th at nationals, when 3 get to go to the Olympics or 3 get to go to Worlds. It is a tough place to be.
Yeah.
But no, I have nothing against her. I think that to find consistency under pressure, finding a balance of that happy-go-lucky intensity would be helpful, because of course you need that intensity in your training and in your everyday like sport life, but you also need to have something else that balance that out, because too much of anything is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Like I was like super intense and I had to work really hard to find out how to balance that. And when I finally figured it out is when I became consistent and better.
So their 3 jump combo in every competition scares the shit out of me. And it's because of Deanna.
They kind of pause also between each of them. So like the rhythm is kind of awkward.
They pause. And I feel like she's watching and analyzing how they're both doing as she's skating. And I noticed it like when she does the triple toe, you see her eye and you see that she knows that he has a little bit of the bad landing, right? And then she does a single
But
axel.
he still reset for that double axel. And she let his bobble distract
Get in her mind, get distracted. And then she was off axis on a double axel, which she can do in her sleep, right? It's just whatever they're doing on that, they should not worry about matching or whatever. If they need to each think about their own job, right?
When it comes down to it,
Mhm.
Eric and I always said this too. Like when it comes down to it, you need to land a jump.
Mhm.
In the short program at the Olympics, I was going into my triplets and I saw Eric reach back to pick, and I had like a moment of self-doubt where I was like, I'm not ready. So I paused and then I
Mhm.
picked after him. And like usually we drew back and we had pretty good unison on our lutz. And I took that moment to be like, I'm not ready. I need to like reset my mind. And I was able to land it. If I would have panicked about matching him, I would have missed it.
Mhm.
And then like no Olympic medal.
Yeah. I notice it that she wants it so badly, which is admirable because they've made,
And of course she does. Who's doing this at 40
yeah,
years old that doesn't want it that badly?
and they've improved and they have really gorgeous lifts and really great programs and the package is put
And the
together.
best twist right now.
Yeah. But I think that they need to figure out between now and Worlds is the mental game because we don't know what's going to happen next season with other teams, right? This is their window of opportunity and it could go either way right now.
Yeah.
And for continents, there's not that much time between now and then. It's another opportunity. But when you look at Worlds, obviously is the goal, and they can do it. They need to figure out to stay in their own lane. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is her throw, because I've asked Bruno about it. I ask anyone that goes to competition, I'm like, what is going on with her throw? Because her throws have been a journey, right? They've gotten bigger. She's capable of doing them. I notice on the landing, it almost looks like, okay, we're good, rather than like making it happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's odd because she can do a gorgeous throw. Like,
Oh,
I'm sure if
especially like a throw triples out in her sleep.
she
I think
willed herself to have the best twist, she willed herself to have the best lifts. She needs to will herself to have the best throw landing. And I'm sorry, Leah has a better throw landing than she does. Even on the ones that she's
they have
doing.
different throws though.
Yeah.
Like Leah and Trent go for the smaller compact throws, which allow a little bit more flow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easier to control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Max and Deanna's throws, like the one in the short that she missed, went so up and down. So when she lands, she has no running edge.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it, she pitches forward just a little bit without a running edge. It's like a complete belly flop. I think like being able to elongate the takeoffs on throws, and it's something I worked on really hard and I never really mastered, but because I worked on it so hard, like it's something that I feel like knowledgeable about because like I tried and I worked with so many experts to try to achieve it. And it's like almost like a rubber band that elongates before it snaps and fires. And that's what the Russians do so well on these throws. And that gives them the amplitude to get up and across. And you need that across to have your running edge out.
Do you think she's
Like the
capable
Shui and Han. Shui and Han have huge throws, but they always went up and across.
So I'm in like a more anxious person. So I'm the person under pressure. I tend to quicken, right?
Yeah,
Do you
me too.
do you think that she can do that? Like learn that?
I think that they can definitely learn it. I think it's almost like a breath when I work with people in throws. It's like it's a breath.
Okay.
And of course, when you're nervous under pressure, it's hard to control that.
Mhm.
I always did my best throw quads with lots of flow in practice. I never landed those in competition because
Mhm.
under pressure with adrenaline, throws also fire a bit differently and throws get bigger
Okay.
like when you have that adrenaline. Twists get bigger, throws get bigger. And it's like almost out of your control. It's like I'm not trying to make it bigger. Your partner's not trying to make it bigger, but you just give a little more like subconsciously.
I feel like Deanna would also like to say that she willed herself to have a good death spiral. Okay. So I think she
Yeah,
needs to
she used to
will,
say like death spirals were so bad. Her death spirals were so bad. She used to say that all the time to me.
so she needs to will herself to become a throw queen. This is
Yeah.
like, yeah,
And like just keep working with that like elastic feeling. Elongate that edge as you go into
You made a comment to me
elongate.
where you said you think he is negatively impacted by her intensity, right? That if she
I can
relaxed,
see it happening because I think I was capable of a similar intensity, which would have negatively impacted my extremely calm partner as well.
Mhm.
I don't think Max is like as calm as Eric. Like Eric is pretty calm, like as calm as it gets, like cool as a cucumber in competition. But and every day, really. But I think that like Max probably needs the confidence boost, not the pressure. That's what I imagine. He needs like the pep talk backstage from her, like, I trust you. I know we can do it. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. We're just gonna like go in the moment, one thing at a time.
But I think she
If there's
probably
like
needs to
something as an
understand.
elite athlete, like you have to accept that anything can happen because it can, it's sport, right? And sometimes as soon as you just accept it, it just lets it go and it gives you confidence, like that you have that acceptance of what could happen.
Well, I think that it's weird, but sometimes when you get better, you also know your own potential. So then you're even harder on
Of
yourself.
course, yes. Because you
And
know
then,
what you're capable of. That was
yes.
like for us too, like a big thing where it's like super frustrating when you don't skate as good as you know you can skate.
Yeah. And I think for them, then maybe the coach needs to be stepping in and really instilling the confidence, right? And I think whatever work that they need to do between themselves and like off ice mental coaching will be very critical for them because their
That's
problems,
probably the last piece to their puzzle.
yeah, because it doesn't look technical. It doesn't look artistic. Like, I mean, they're problems, right? Like, it just looks mental to me. Like, watching them, it's always on, like, what is her mood?
Yeah.
And what is this going to be, right? And I think last year when she got sick, it was game over, right? But this year, it looks very possible, right? So I think that they need to figure out between, and I don't think that having a little bit of mistake here is necessarily a bad thing if it can motivate them to figure out what need, like how about
And if you
before.
can learn, having mistakes are never a bad thing if you learn from them and you
Mhm.
don't repeat the same mistake again. That
Mhm.
was like something that we worked on a lot in our career. It's like throughout the season, like we made like a mistake on something at this event, but something different at the next one and different. And you learn from each one and you don't make the same mistake again. So
Mhm.
that eventually you've learned all the lessons within that program.
I think they need to really like make that throw their goal, especially the loop. But in the long, they're choreographed really well, where the throws build, especially with the choreography, with the falling leaf, the mini lift that they do, and it really builds that program really great. I think what they need to do, especially like to even like instill like fire and even get fan engagement. If I were her, I would be setting goals of what I wanted for that throw each time in practice, right? And I think that they could do different things where like one day you motivate yourself when you're like, I'm going to post 5 good throw or how many, like what would a good number of throws be for someone at this level? Like that they would do 3, 5, like what are you
Yeah,
thinking?
like a handful.
A handful,
They'd
right?
warm one up before their program. They'd do one in their program. They'd do
Mhm.
it again in section work. Probably
This is what I would do.
the throw loop, they do more reps than the throw sound because it's in both programs.
So she's a pair girl, right? So she's feisty. So what she should do is be like, put 3 of those great throw loops on Instagram in like a carousel, tag me and be like, loops were good today. And then like, right? And then like a week from then, you post your whole program with like a great loop, right? And you like embrace it and you make it into a positive before
Yeah,
we
I
go.
do think skaters of today could be using Instagram,
Way better.
TikTok, stuff like
They're
that
a
to
three of
really
it.
promote and sell themselves a lot more.
And it's up to you to like do that. And they all need to build their brand. Look at what Paulina is doing. Like, what are we not doing? Like, how is Paulina the top US lady in the country? She's not even competing. And she's like the Regina George of US figure skating. Like, she's beating all of them. Like, she figured this out for herself. Right. And I think that,
I think that it can be utilized a lot more. And
and it grows the sport too. It grows them. It grows financial opportunities. It grows confidence. It grows everything. And they're not
just get
utilized.
people talking. You could
Yes.
just like literally, if all it does is build momentum and get people talking about you before Worlds, it's a good thing.
I want to know what color leggings Paulina is going to wear when she tells us how to have gorgeous lines. I'm like, well, what is she wearing? Right? Like, this is,
Am I the only one that doesn't follow her?
yeah, and you really need to. Like,
Okay. I don't
you,
think, maybe I do. I never see it come up in my feed. It's not in my algorithm if I do follow her.
everybody loves to talk about it, good, bad, or the ugly. Like, people will be like, who does she think she is? And then be like, well, she is pretty good, right? Like, it's like a journey with her.
That's
But
funny.
everybody's talking
Yeah,
about her.
everybody could use social media a little bit more to get their
Look at it. When she was
people
against
talking.
Ashley, Gracie, and Mariah, she was like in fourth place in terms of like engaging fan personality. Now she's the one everybody's talking. And right, like she just has willed this to happen. Like she became the smartest. I think that these skaters need to do it. And it also builds you with the judges. Like look at Fear and
It does,
Gibson.
though. It does.
Fear and Gibson were so likable. They took every media opportunity and they're just like super commercial, right? Like they're not artsy, but they're just super, like you can watch it and immediately you're like, okay.
Connect with it.
They started like racing in ice dance because of this. They're not the best skaters, but like everybody is bought in because everybody feels like they know them. And it's interesting. Like, who are you sending by Italy for Worlds? Which teams are you sending? Like, is Sarah Conti and Nicolo? Are you like so sorry? This has been not your year. Or are you sending them?
No, because they almost won the Grand Prix final. So no.
Yeah, they're
They
going.
have the highest score of the season.
Sorry, then you are you
Second at the
cutting
Grand
the
Prix
girl with the
final.
triple sow cow that looks like she taught herself? Because that triple sow cow is criminal.
No, I go with Cats.
You're going with Katz is
Of
going.
course. They just won Europeans. If they hadn't, if they came second and hadn't won, I'd probably say Rebecca and Filippo, who I love. Who like I think are my favorite of the Italian teams. Rebecca
Yeah.
and Filippo.
With the Dracula, yeah.
They have my favorite programs and whatnot, but the others have the medal at the Grand Prix final. The
Yeah.
others have the European title.
Mhm.
I think that they're just going to get lost in the shuffle again, and it shouldn't be. I think that the ISU should have like a bonus spot available for like pairs, especially because we're the discipline with the least amount of skaters. And like it's just sad that like it's not sad because our third place team was really great at Canadians. They skated really well, Kellyanne and Lucas. It's nothing against them. But like a team that made the Grand Prix finals, probably not going to go to Worlds, but a team like Kellyanne and Luca who
So
didn't.
which girl are they gonna find? Are they gonna find like an Italian American girl from New Jersey to compete for them? Italy is like in a position, if there were the Olympic team event, if Russia is not back, Italy is on the verge of winning it.
I
Right.
know, I love it. I really wanted them to medal like every year on the team event because I think that the Italian skating is great. I love the skaters. I love the energy that they have. I love the passion that they bring to the sport. And I love that they've become like this huge skating nation. Their federation is doing something right. And maybe some other federations should look at what the Italian Federation is doing and try to do some of the same things.
Like the men's is very competitive. They've got a good dance team, and the pairs are very competitive.
They give their skaters opportunities. Like their last place skaters at nationals go to international competitions. Yeah. Canada's national medalists don't go to international competitions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Canadian pairs, I think there's enough potential to rebuild this pair program. Like, but I think having Fiona in the mix, picking that one discipline, I think she should pick pairs. I think right now, honestly, if you're a lady, it's so hard, right? And if you don't have that great triple, how are you ever going to make it? And then how are you going to compete internationally, right? Like it's just, and they're
in pairs, there'll always be more spots available for like championship events too. Like I don't see Canada going down to one pair team going to the World Championships or the Olympics, where we're just going to be there in ladies for a while. So
okay, how about Maddie Schizas as coach saying that she needed a bigger crowd to get more nervous? Now, I understand getting focused and getting energized, but it's nationals and she's a competitor. I don't buy that excuse.
Let's also remember her best skates ever came in Beijing in an empty rink. How quickly her coach forgot that.
Well, I mean, it was a bullshit excuse. Like it was patently full of it.
I'm clarifying that, yes, it was.
And why is everybody still skating to
It's very rare that you see a coach with excuses. I find that interesting. somebody commented that Golden Skate like twisted Maddie's words, and she didn't say this. So I don't
I
know.
don't think that Golden
I
Skate
wasn't
means.
listening to Maddie's voice.
Mhm.
I could see her making a comment like this, kind of like as a joke, like I wasted my time, like as a joke. But I don't think like working hard is ever a waste of time, because she's going to have that hard work in the bank for her going forward for the rest of the season. So you can work really hard and have a bad competition. It doesn't mean your hard work was wasted. It means you weren't ready to utilize that hard work yet. You weren't
I just want to say,
finished.
I know Paula from Golden Skate. I really don't think that she would twist someone's words.
I
Like, I
don't
could,
think so either, but I'm just like
yeah.
giving the
This is
benefit.
someone who, like, federations will call to be like, can you
And
take
like
that?
they use a microphone, like a recorder.
Use a
to, like,
recorder. Like, she's not an amateur. Like, she's not her, this is not her first day. Okay. But people freak out in skating the same time. The same, if anyone says that they have a moment and like, and they're honest, people just freak out. And it's weird that federations freak out. And it's like at the end of the day, you gave someone something to talk about. You're actually making skating bigger from the
Yeah.
fact that people are actually talking about something. And you know what? Something bigger is going to happen in all of our lives. We're going to forget that she said that in 2 minutes. Like,
They won't last long.
I'm like, okay, she skated like utter shit. She's in her feelings. Like, period, done. She just
Well, and
lost.
that's why, like, yeah, what she said is like, even if she said it, it's a little bit like forgivable. She was in the heat of the moment. You're very emotional, whether it's a good or a bad skate.
Mhm.
Just like I did find it a little bit strange, the comments from her coach.
That I find excuses from a
Yeah,
coach.
that's like usually you don't hear high performance coaches making excuses. But
I
going back
think
to her, like I said,
she also needs a
she
Pilates.
competed. This was her fourth competition of the season. Why wasn't she competing this summer? Why wasn't she competing in December? Because
I've seen her skate.
time and time again, it appears that Maddie falls short of her own expectations when she competes.
I've
So
seen her in
that tells me you need to compete more.
Like she's an interesting skater where I've seen her in Boston at Cranberry, right? Look very like middle of the pack in a field of like 20 girls, right? I will never forget it. The Olympic year, she had looked so strong, this is, granted, you're seeing it on a computer screen or on TV that she looked relatively strong, and speed is different in person. I noticed again her posture needs work. Like if she called Karen Cortland, Karen would fix her, put her on a program, because her body movement is inhibited by like tight shoulders and her posture, which doesn't just it impacts everything in your technique. It impacts the way you
Well,
construct, it impacts the speed. But then I noticed she does like sometimes really underperform and then look like a different skater months later.
yes.
But there's something also going on. Like, why did we have that terrible free skate last year? Right. Where like that was a disaster the whole year to like fix that. Right. Like there's just like things that are going on where I agree with you. She needs to be ready. She needs to have the right music for herself. She needs to like have the right team around her and be ready sooner. It's like a lack of organization in a
And
sense.
like she made a comment in an interview too earlier, like maybe after Cup of China or before Cup of China, like I'm not getting level fours on my spins and I don't know why. I mean, the rules are written on a paper. You can see exactly why.
Mhm.
Plus, you can talk to technical specialists, and
Mhm.
so can your coach after every event. Technical specialists will give you feedback.
Mhm.
When the event is over, you can go ask them and they will give you their feedback, or they will look in their notes and email it to your coach.
But what about when the coaches, like Brian Orser used to play dumb about Medvedeva and her spins when she was not getting in the proper position, especially like on that sit spin. Remember like the memoirs of
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah. I remember that at like Autumn Classic that year. But I want to bring up a point because you were
yeah,
talking about like uh what were you saying about like
someone.
the posture that impacts
The
the technique?
posture, yes.
So
And I know it because I
I
have.
know that there's a lot of skaters in Ontario. Um, I don't know if it's Skate Canada or Skate Ontario, but they send their high performance skaters to weight train with a former hockey player. That's what
Mhm.
they do for their off ice. And I've forever questioned this, like forever, because weight training has no place for a female figure skater. Um, maybe for a male para dancer.
Well, what kind of weight training? Because like Christy Yamaguchi did weights like that, like helped her. Like remember, like in the fluff piece, you see her doing the weights with her legs, and that helped make her a lot
Yeah,
stronger.
like they're doing like massive like pulls with weights.
Yeah.
Exercises that like when I look at them, the movement has nothing to do with anything that we are required to do on the ice.
Mhm.
And when I was like starting out in my journey to elite sport, and like I like got a trainer and did all this stuff, and the first thing the trainer wanted me to do was weightlifting, and I had to educate the trainer on the sport of figure skating.
Mhm.
And I was like, we need to be strong, but like long muscles, and be strong, and we need to be quick when we're tired.
Mhm.
I was like, when we're tired at the end of a long program, we have to be quick and strong. We need to have core control and posture, like all these things. Like I remember educating my trainer. And I worked with this amazing trainer at the end of my career, Patrick, who also came from hockey. And I educated him on like what was required physically for figure skaters. We created a training plan around that together. He ended up working with all the ice dancers in Montreal, and being very successful with figure skaters. So I think I know a little bit of what's required off ice training for figure skaters, and doing deadlifts is not. um, so I do get confused at like who's giving the guidance that that's the right training to do.
Mhm.
Because it doesn't make sense
Mhm.
from what I know of the sport.
Mhm.
And I always say that we need to look at like what people are doing in other countries that are more successful.
Mhm.
No Korean, no Japanese, and none of those European female skaters are going to a weight machine,
Mhm.
to a big machine and lifting big weights. They're not. They're not. So if we are trying to be like them because those skaters are more successful than us, why aren't we doing what they're doing?
Mhm.
Like when I was skating and Aliona was a world champion, I just wanted to do whatever Aliona did because she was a world champion. That's what I wanted to be.
Mhm.
When I was a young child, I wanted to do everything Michelle Kwan or Tara Lipinski did because they were champions. So
I still want to do
I
everything.
just want to know who's like sending these female skaters to lift these big weights.
I saw Michelle Kwan's
Why
like,
aren't they at a Pilates machine?
yeah. I saw
Anyway,
Michelle
end of
Kwan's
my rant.
yoga. I saw Michelle's yoga routine yesterday, and I saw her I still want to do her recipes. Like you still like I'm like, yes.
Michelle Kwan loves like all my posts, and like I get like so like 7-year-old or 10-year-old fangirl every time I see like liked by Michelle Kwan. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so special.
How is
And like
she
then
so
I'm like,
calm?
if she's liking my posts, that means like I'm in her algorithm, like she's seeing because she's watching my stuff. So then I feel like so special. So thanks, Michelle, if you're listening to this.
Listen, she's gonna host a podcast now. And
Oh,
then
a figure skating
she's
podcast
really
or
I don't
like
know,
a
dating,
political
but like she's really winning at Instagram
life.
lately. What life when she was doing the bubbles with her daughter and like yes, like
I
she's
love her. And
yes.
one thing Michelle Kwan taught me, and she doesn't know she taught me this. Um, I saw like a fluff piece back when like CBS was covering skating. Like, I don't know, it might not have been CBS, maybe it was ABC. But Michelle Kwan and her dad said that if you want to be successful at figure skating, you need to study the sport and you need to know everything about it. And I turned off the TV and I told my mom that that's what I needed to do. And like, that's what I did. That's
Mhm.
what I did. That like I literally made a career for myself because I studied everything about the sport. And it was Michelle Kwan who taught me that. So thanks, Michelle.
Well, I know that a lot of pair skaters who study, right? And I think it's so interesting because there's so many skaters who don't. And I don't know what it is about that pair girl personality,
Maybe
but
because we're the crazy ones.
yeah,
Like the good crazy, but the
if I
crazy.
like if you ever ask a pair girl, even a pair guy, like a question, they have an opinion and an answer, and they know their competitors and they know every single person in the field. So that's why when I interviewed Papadakis and Cizeron and they said, "Oh, we don't really watch skating," I was like,
But I believe it. I believe that they don't.
I mean, I can't. I just I was like, yeah, but you know,
Yeah. I
you're
do
right.
like maybe it's because like we
I
are
think Tessa Virtue watched everything. I think Tessa Virtue knew stuff in and out. Like you could just tell that.
probably,
Yeah.
I don't know for a fact, but knowing her, I would assume yes.
I think she also studied influencers on Instagram and figured that out too. Like that's a smart.
Or somebody told her.
Or
Somebody did this studying for her.
she knew the right person to ask, right? Like I tend to think she studied herself, knowing that she said that when she moved to Patrice Lauzon, that she brought a notebook with her to write down his technical information that she could study it. So I'm thinking that she did that studying on her own. Like I think that that's why she was successful too. You know, like when I was like, that's why she won. Like that's why she won.
But you need to do that. So like I ask myself, what Canadian skater right now is doing that?
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of them that I think are. But if you are, I respect you and I'm proud of you and keep doing it because it will pay off eventually.
Yeah, if you're not doing it, like why are you
And
competing?
start.
Right? Like unless you have a Terry to think for you, what are you doing? Right? Like this is, and like don't know if I would take her advice. Like how'd that work for Daniel Grossel? Right? Like I don't know. Right? Like, that's just not what I would be doing. But yet you have to study. You have to know that. I mean, I talked to Tamara Moskvina yesterday. She's still studying.
Tamara, like I read all the books, and in one book I read that Tamara Moskvina said that she had like boxes of files of all her skaters in her attic.
I've read that book. That's the second mark. They talk about that. Yes. Yeah. You need to be, you learn so much when you, and she's studying other sports, right? She told me she's watching rhythmic gymnastics and the ballet to get ideas for her teams. And it's like, well, yeah, it looks like that. It looks like she's doing the work, right? And if you're a coach, you need to be studying too.
Yes, always.
I got better at skating when I took the studying into my own hands. And then I started watching the Lucy videos and I was like, I'm going to learn to spin like that. And then I started working on it.
Like at some point, you always need to take it into your own hands because it is,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're standing on the ice.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing it for you. You're out there at the center ice and have to perform. So if you haven't done this studying, how can you pass the exam?
I mean, that's how Piper and Paul got better with stroking. I think that they have room to grow aesthetically. I don't think that they make always the right decision with programs. And again, with Pilates and posture, and like that's a real weakness that Piper has. And I don't know how it's being addressed. You know, I would
talk about good training. Like Piper and Paul have an amazing off-ice trainer that works on all the great things for figure skaters, that like core control, explosive power that's light and strong. And yeah, he's great.
they're
Paul's
also very consistent relatively on the ice. They make very few mistakes, which helps you with judges because it's how Marilyn Charlie won the Olympics over
they
time.
really just like struggle with the winning program. And I think they have the winning free dance right now.
I
I'm
don't.
not too sure that they have the winning short dance. Well, I don't feel like they do.
I don't think anyone has the winning short dance, including Chalk and Bates. I think what Chalk and Bates do.
I saw a short dance that I was like, oh my God, this is
If
the
you
best
just
short
looked at a
dance in the
picture,
world.
I'm sorry, but like
Somebody random.
if you looked at a picture of how Chalk and Bates are packaged next to Piper and Paul, from the costumes, the material of the costumes, I'm sorry, I don't think that his mullet is doing him any favors, even if he's like an artsy guy, and I get that he likes it, but not all of the judges are. If you look at it, it's almost like when you go to Montreal that you're joining a record label and they're putting you together, right? And they're like packaging, like they did it with Tessa Virtue, they've done it with Madison Chalk, and it's like she just looks like the winner before they've skated.
Here's my thing, and I've always wondered this. I've almost tweeted this to skating Twitter a couple of times, but I'm like a little scared of skating Twitter sometimes.
Oh yeah, and they're not living in reality either. So
but
you
I've questioned this a lot. What would happen if the skaters all wore black leggings and a black tank top and no makeup and didn't have their hair done, and skating was judged on the purity of the skating, and the performance that's not like distracted by the costume?
And you'd also have to get judges.
Who would be the champions right now if that was how we did things?
And judges who didn't know what country they were from or who their coaches were.
And you know who put that seed in my head many years ago was Tessa Virtue. She was like, why aren't we just wearing like black? Why don't we all just wear black? And I think it was like meant for the same reason as I'm thinking, like where you're being judged on just like the purity of your figure skating instead of your costume, of your makeup, of your hair.
It would be interesting
We
because
all did the same music too.
if everybody wore black, people would focus on their lines more.
Yeah.
They would have to stand out. You wouldn't be able to rely on a costume.
You could make your skating big and flashy and entertaining without the costumes, without the sparkles, without the makeup. Like you can still do a great 80s short dance, I'm sure, without the earrings and the makeup. And I don't know. I'd love to see it though.
It makes it more
like
fun.
skating Twitter, like once this is posted, can like answer me what they think about that.
I think it would be an interesting competition, right? Like they should do it. Like they should try it. You know, they try a bunch of things at all of these senior Bs that there's no audience for. So why don't they try? I bet you that people would like find a way to like get better leg extension and do. I mean, I would. I'd be like, if everybody's wearing the same thing, I need to make my leg look the most stunning.
Yeah, or like I need to make sure my turns are really clean, or I need to make sure I have the hardest content in my program because like the base value is not something that's subjective, it's there.
I think with Piper and Paul, what I noticed that's going to harm them at Worlds is that Chalk and Bates, though they don't have the skating skills of Piper and Paul, they create pictures that you remember in your mind. Their opening pose, their lift. She has great
Let's talk
extension.
about their opening pose. I love Madison and Evan. I know we always argue about that sometimes because I've been telling you like I was such a big fan back when you weren't as much of a big fan.
Yes. I think they're the best of the
opening pose, you know, like where she's like on her, is it him or her that's on their toe picks?
Isn't it?
But anyways, you know the picture, like she's here.
Yes.
My husband had the same opening pose in like 1997. You can find it on YouTube.
Okay.
And he trained with Patrice Lauzon that year that he had that opening pose.
Very interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. I told him, like, you should, I have a screenshot of it somewhere on my phone. I should send it to you. I told him, like,
I'll share it.
Why don't you share this? Like, why don't you put it on Twitter? And he's like, no, I would never do that. Like,
you know why? Because everybody is afraid of Marie-France and Patrice Lauzon. They are.
But like, he wasn't even like insulted, like, oh, they stole it. He's just like, they're not the first ones to do it. Like, I did it like 30 years ago.
I don't know why everyone's so afraid of them. You know what? They're like the silence.
They're nice people. I roomed with them at the Olympics.
Yeah, no, they are nice people.
Patrice and Jose Picard at the Olympics.
Well, listen,
they were all wonderful. They were all wonderful.
I would be way more afraid of Jose just because you could tell that mind is going, right? But
well, after my 2 weeks of living with Jose at the Olympics, she was like, every skater needs to learn how to like live like you. I think that she meant it like, I would like do yoga in my room in the morning, then go to practice, then come back to my room and stretch and eat like a really healthy bowl of oatmeal and do my puzzle and go to bed early. And like, she was like, that's how you're successful. I remember her telling me that. Super intense, but I liked her.
Oh, I like her. I mean, I don't like know her that well to like, but I visited Montreal and she's just on top of it. And like anytime I've seen her at a competition, scary, yeah, but like
she's somebody that does the studying.
Yeah, yes. I think that but I think with Montreal, I think that they just like put together a package that's very marketable and it's very hard to beat it. Like,
yeah,
they just look like dipped in money, like compared to like Piper and Paul.
You need so much money to be able to train there.
How expensive?
And like, why is that important in skating? Like, why do you should be able to be successful without the fancy costumes.
Mm-hmm. You should be. But this is skating.
That comes back to my theory of like competing all in black with no makeup and no sparkle and no.
Here's the thing.
It's just your skating.
If you're at a competition.
Papadakis would agree because she did the interview once, like really arguing about why we use makeup.
Yeah, but Papadakis also wore a gorgeous blue dress at the Olympics in 2018 to compete with Tessa Virtue, and it disguised her knobby knee at the time and made her look, that costume by Matthew Caron made her look.
A knobby knee, what's that?
A knobby knee is when your knee doesn't fully extend, and she's gotten better with it, like Lila Fear has one, where like the kneecap is a bump. So Lila Fear's knee
Is that
never
just the
looks
shape of your kneecap or the way you move
Yeah,
your
but you can work on it. You can work on it with Pilates and extend it. And it's like your knee stabilizers have to be strengthened. And it's like an issue in your kinetic chain. So like, and it actually, when you have a more extended leg, you can get on a deeper edge. So it's just like a very interesting thing because people used to criticized Papadakis' skating skills. And as her leg got better, her skating got better. And she became more confident. And she became more of an integral part of that team to where she actually became the one that I was watching by the end of their careers. I was like, oh, wow, Guillaume doesn't perform that much, but she's interesting. Like, he's the most gorgeous skater, but like, after a while, you're like, okay, I've seen it. He's really like flexible and smooth and wonderful. But like, she had like the extra X factor for that team later on. And it's interesting because like Lila Fear has that problem with her knee, and it's like, okay, you need to work on that before the Olympics because this is a team that seems very driven, but you know, they lost to the Italians who are not packaged like Montreal, and
Well, nobody is. Nobody is.
nobody, right? But
I
like
don't think that they have to be.
in ice dance, I think you do.
Well, Montreal didn't win Canadians or Europeans, so
They did it, but
they still had all the other results.
they had their
every other
top two teams did not compete in.
I know, and they still had every other placement. I'm just like, I'm being the devil's advocate.
I mean, they, and I think Caroline, listen, I think she's a very formidable skating coach, right? Like, and I think she does a very steady job, yeah, right? Like with her teams. Like, I really respect a coach that's like consistently steady, right? Like, always there, always producing good work. Like, and I think she's so, because then you know that their fundamentals of their philosophy is relative, like in order, right? And I would look at that and I'd be like, Caroline has a real, she's done her studying, right? And it's you know, often the smartest coaches are the most successful because they've done the studying. And the same thing with the skaters. So
They ask the questions, they find the answers.
so I wanted to ask you about concussion protocol because we didn't see Marjorie and Zach here. Marjorie has a concussion. How long, like, would they be fine by Worlds? Can they be like, because I know sometimes it depends on the concussion, it depends on the fault, you know, like, but what is the concussion protocol and how long, you know, what is kind of that prognosis
Like,
typically?
I don't know the concussion protocol right now. I don't actually know, because it's always changing. It's like, it was like sit in a dark room and don't look at anything for weeks on end. And then you end up with like a concussion and depression together and you don't know which one is which. Like I have a headache, is it because I'm depressed or because I have a concussion? And then it was like, no, after a few days you're fine. And then it's like, don't go to sleep. Like the concussion protocol feels like it's ever changing. And like when I was competing, we get like an updated like paperwork. Well, it wasn't in paper, it was online, but like updated documents on concussion protocol. Um, but I think that, and Bruno told me this because somebody had tweeted something about the number of concussions from the IM dancers in Montreal. And so I asked Bruno, I was like, why do you think that is? And he was like, well, number one, a large percentage of ice dancers in the world train there. So like the percentage of any injury will just be higher because they have so many teams. Number two, when you fall in ice dance, you often fall on top of each other. So like, because they're always holding, they're always so close.
And they're always rotating,
somebody's
spinning, right?
What's that?
They're always spinning. If you think about it, like those are weird falls to take.
Yeah.
Like a fall from a rotational lift is probably going to be very different than a fall from an overhead or a fall from a twist, right?
Yeah, like a lot of pair skating falls are a lot more like static falls.
Mhm.
And they often look a lot worse than they actually are.
Mhm.
But so I think like there's a little bit of that, like to answer the questions of like, why is there so many concussions there? Like it just seems like it because almost all the dancers train there. Number two is because when dancers fall, like they are going to land on top of each other. And number three, like maybe they take concussion protocol like to an extra caution, the coaches in Montreal.
I will say in dance,
They like have like an even higher standard of concussion protocol of like time off and stuff. I don't
So
know.
last year-
Like I'm guessing.
last year, US Nationals, first practice, team goes out, Rafaela, they had a rotational lift fall. And like it was as though she went and
Like in competition.
in practice, but like at the competition. And like it was as though like, they lose grip and down, like complete no slide to the fall, right? It just went, and it was like, oh my God. And you could hear her hit her head, and it was horrifying. So I think that a lot of those rotational lifts are quite dangerous. Like
I think they are like deceivingly extreme.
I think ice dance has become deceivingly dangerous because of those lifts.
Yeah.
Um,
So, but I have heard that like she's going to four continents. I don't know though if that's like factual. It's just what I heard. So like maybe it's not that serious and this was just an extra precaution.
but the weird thing to me about Montreal is that they didn't announce this, right? Which then gets people talking about the fact, and look, when people aren't upfront about something,
Who announced it? Like Skate Canada?
it was like never formally announced, by the way. Nobody knew why they withdrew, which again is like Skate Canada,
How do
not
we know she had a concussion?
like the ether, the talk from competition, right? But if you think about it, it should have been announced in advance and they should have been upfront, because when you're not upfront about something, it looks like you're hiding something, which then makes it look sketch, which then makes us question, when was that concussion? Is she going to be safe to compete at four continents, right? Like you, in a way to try to protect the people by not saying, you actually invite more questions, right? Rather than being like, we had a concussion this many weeks ago, we've been following this, and we're going to
just like be open about your situation with people.
Otherwise, we think you're Michaela Maroney, where it's like, wait a second, she had a concussion at US Nationals. She's sitting in a dark room, and then she's going to compete at Olympic trials 2 weeks later, and everyone's acting like she's fine. And then later she's like, oh no, I totally still had a concussion at Olympic trials. And you're like, okay, like this feels like not.
Yeah, I don't know that much like about concussion protocol or concussions because I've never.
How about Hawaii can Baker? Everyone like with a brain is saying, okay, they're not competing at US Nationals, right? Like there's no way. They haven't said anything for over a year.
Yeah, like what are they doing?
Montreal is silencing everyone. And why is that, right? Like this is the strangest case in plain sight where you're like, wait a second.
Do you have any information on them?
Like some, right? And then like you have to read the tea leaves, because you think, okay, they had a Korean team give an interview to icedance.com, one of the safest interviews ever. But the biggest tell is they asked the skaters like, oh, you worked with many top skaters over the summer. And they're like, oh yeah, we worked with Jean-Luc. And you're like, okay. So they mentioned like Jean-Luc Guillaume, who was not competing, and another skater who's not competing. And I thought, oh, they just did a major tell there, and they didn't realize that they did it when they were like, oh, Jean-Luc's coaching another top team at the rink. You're like, got it. Okay. Like this is
strange because then they like something at some point this fall or summer, they posted like that they were like so excited to be back on the ice.
Yes, but it was like very brief and like edited in like a very way that you were like, okay, but we never heard about it ever again.
Yeah.
We've seen more photos of her DJ. And you're like, why is that? Why can't you just be honest and be like, okay, this is what's going on?
Yeah. I know. I think like
it looks sketchy.
I feel like being open is like the easier way to go. And like I just like overshare information. And it's just how I am. So I do always question people who'd like choose to like hold back information.
When Jessica
I question it and I wonder why, and I don't trust it. But then again, like maybe they literally just want privacy, and it's like something that I'm not as familiar with. Like I don't know.
When Jessica Callalang had the eyelash glue problem, right? I had heard that it was something with WADA, right? People were like, no, it's an abortion. No, it's cocaine, right? And you're like, oh my God, like this is what happens when this like gets, there's too much. Yeah.
Yeah, it is better like just to stop the rumors, just to state fact of what's going on. And it can just be like a brief statement. And then at the end, like, I want my privacy. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Like her eyelash glue became the most scandalous thing. People were acting like the girl's bumping lines. You're like, okay, like this is, I don't think that that's going on here, right? It was insane. It was really an insane situation. And there's that, like, yeah. So, okay. So with Maddie Schizas and Kaiya, like, what is your take on Canada's prospects for Worlds and who they should be sending to competitions and all of that?
Oh, well, they should be sending Kaiya somewhere to get another chance at the minimum score for Worlds because if something happens to Maddie, Skate Canada will have no girl to send to Worlds. That's what they should be doing. Do I believe they will do that? No, absolutely not.
What's going on with Kaiya's career? Because I've never seen someone with so, like, she came up. There was warning, right, that she had potential. And it just seems like there's a lot of strange management. And I know that some, like, there were rumors about COVID and those kinds of situations, but this is a situation.
Like she's not like supported as much as I feel like she should be, but I don't know if there's a reason why. I don't know her personally. She comes and skates in Oakville sometimes. She works with Jeff Langdon that coaches here. She's always very nice.
Mhm.
She's like fully engaged in the whole program. Like last summer when she came, like she did like all the group classes, all the off ice programs, like and really enjoyed it. She's a pleasant girl. She works really hard. I'm not sure like what she did to maybe piss off Skate Canada, if anything. I feel like I would be getting maybe sending her to Challenge Cup to do a skate off with Maddie
Mm-hmm.
and have a chance to get the minimum score. Neither one of them's coming top 10. Does it matter who we send?
I think it matters for their future development that they get opportunities to skate internationally.
Oh, yes. But I'm talking about like the World Championships. Like I think that Kaiya should be given another chance to get the world score before it's too late. The last chance is Challenge Cup. I think that Maddie should also be there. And if Kaiya gets the score and beats Maddie, Kaiya should be the one that goes to Worlds. Plain and simple.
Challenge Cup is good. You get to go to Amsterdam. Like, come on. It's like a good trip. You know, like you could go to the Van Gogh
It's the
Museum.
last chance with the minimum score. Kaiya's going to the Youth Olympics. That was already announced like a while ago. It's next week or the week after or something. So she can't go to Four Continents because she took that Youth Olympics assignment.
It's just it feels like they both have been near the top for a long time, and they're in a sense veterans, but don't really compete like it. And it's the same thing with the Canadian men.
But this is 2 years in a row. Kaiya rose to the occasion at Nationals. She won the long program last year at Nationals.
And she rose to the occasion in Nationals when she was in junior. You know, she's
so like she has like the technicalities with the under rotations and some edge calls and stuff like that. But she still seems to be able to get more content done a little bit more consistently, or maybe not even consistently, more content done when the pressure is on. Because last year at Nationals, Maddie was third in the long, I believe. Maybe second, but Kaiya won the long for sure. And then this year she's third in the long. And then Skate Canada's back to the same thing where we have to send our girls that were like sixth and eighth at Nationals to Four Continents because the girls that were third, fourth, fifth, seventh don't have the score because they weren't sent anywhere to compete.
If you're Keegan Messing, are you looking at this competition being like, I should be like Jason Brown and just compete at Nationals and go to Worlds? And like,
I doubt that Keegan would think like that.
Maybe he should. Jason Brown's making like more.
I don't know about like the men's world team, but like, I mean, they got to skate pretty darn good in a short program to make a long program. Like if Wesley Chu goes to Worlds, he needs a short program at minimum of what he did at Nationals to make that long program. Conrad tries 2 quads in the short. If he did
Conrad hasn't.
I mean, it's in his program. It's not like he ever does it, but
Conrad doesn't
like
even
in the
look
worst,
he
like weird rocking chair in the corner of my basement right now.
I'm sorry, Wesley Chu has earned the right.
I agree.
To go. Conrad has not delivered and has. I'm sorry. Gogolev has not delivered and has been given
Gogolev just pops things and looks miserable and doesn't even try to perform ever. Like
no, and he's been given every opportunity by Skate Canada and hasn't turned the corner.
Stop sending him places until he shows you he's invested in his performance.
Yeah. And last year he looked more invested than this year, right? This year was an injury. Last year was his mom. But again, it's that relentless determination that I don't think that he has. Right. Like Joanie Rochette won an Olympic bronze medal right after her mom died. Right. Like that was relentless determination. That girl wasn't going to be stopped.
But we have 2 spots. Like, do you send Roman and Wesley or do you send Conrad and Wesley? Do you send the junior boy who came second? Like, what do you do?
I mean, so Roman's one of the only skaters that has the potential to actually even score well internationally. And he has like, listen, he can have a beautiful camel spin. He can have a good element in this. But again, if he is not doing. Like, I would make him send me two. I would want 3 shorts a week and 2 longs a week from him on specified days if I might Slipchuck to even consider him for Worlds. And I'd want to track it because I'd look at this and I'd be like, where are we going wrong with the development of clearly the best man in the country? How are we all collectively blowing this? And I would really look at that,
Yeah.
like what are the high performance directors doing? And like they need to be getting gritty, right? Like if you have no money, that's the time you have actually more power in a sense, because if there's like very little money and you're going to choose to invest in someone, everybody needs to like reach for it. And you have to make sure that you spend that wisely. So I would be like, look, you have to send me, you need to be accountable because these boys look like they haven't been held accountable.
I don't know if it's Skate Canada, it's Roman's coaches or Roman himself.
All of it.
Um,
All of it. I would answer yes.
I don't know Roman and his coach enough to know what it is. Like, I can't speak on them because I don't
The
know
coach
them.
hasn't fired him after all of this and hasn't said this isn't working. I mean, anyone with eyes.
He left her, went to the cricket club, and then went
Yes.
back to her.
Yes.
So he left. He saw like the outside world of what his bubble is.
Do you not study their
Didn't like
vibe?
it.
Yeah. Did you study their vibe every time in the kiss and cry? I'm looking at the vibe between them and I'm like, what is she thinking?
I
Right?
didn't
Like,
say anything.
and sometimes he speaks and she's not saying or reacting. And I'm like, what is going on?
And then sometimes, like, I love his YouTube channel, and he is trying to engage in fans, and he does.
Yes.
He's got like a large fan base in the sport of figure skating. But like he never addresses the factual things that need to
When
be
we watch his videos on
or the
TSL
fact,
Live,
like the actual problems, like he never addresses
right.
it.
When we
publicly.
watch his videos on TSL Live, we're no longer necessarily watching them for the right reasons. We're like, what the heck is he going to say? Because he talks around it in like real.
Yeah, it's not like I know I'm not doing this, I need to do this. Like I'm wrong with this. I'm gonna reset, I'm gonna try this.
He never does.
You don't see that.
No. And I would imagine that that's a problem with him and the coach and Skate Canada. Like, to me, that would just be like a sky is blue meeting. Like, you are our best male skater.
That seems so obvious and simple.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
we need to come up with a performance plan. We need to find the right mental coach for you and the right, like, like,
Environment for you to train at the level that needs to be trained.
yeah. He's Canada's best. If Canada
And put a jump in the second half of your short program, that extra point, 2 points, whatever it's going to be, could make a big difference at the end of the day.
how many
Like,
skates do you
we
think
work so hard for like an extra 0.3 or 0.4. And he's just like, I don't need it. I don't need it.
Those boys don't even think in terms of 0.3 or 0.4. They're not thinking like that. That it's obvious. They're thinking like, oh, I hope I land.
Yeah. Am I going to rotate this time?
Am I gonna rotate? Am I gonna pull in? Like it looks like, oh, I'm
Like,
going for the
was it
quad.
in the short program that Roman did a double sow and then he did a double toe in the end?
Yeah.
And I was like, why did he just waste his combo? Like, why didn't he save that combo for the Lutz that's coming and he could do a triple toe on the
He
end?
did the Lutz first this time, which is also like not self-awareness, right?
There was a boy, maybe it
He
was
needs to do his combo first so that he has
somebody, maybe somebody like in the comments, I'll look for the answer because somebody will know this. In the men's short program, somebody did a double sow and then they did a double toe in the end and then proceeded with like triple axel and triple Lutz. And when they did the double sow, double toe, I was like, what are they doing? Why are they wasting a combo right now when you could put a triple toe on the end of the upcoming jump? So whoever knows who that skater was, let me know.
But that's the coach too for not
That's-
studying it, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in adult skating, Galina made me practice an extra jump on the end of anything so that you could switch it.
Of course, that's like easy.
Like today you're doing this,
Easy
right?
strategy.
Yeah.
In singles, it's different.
But then also the skater needs to be owning their own skating, which will eventually make them more confident about it because they will feel more in control.
And like a young skater, like a teenager, it's really hard for them to have that ownership. But when you're a little bit older and you're in your 20s, you're usually mature enough to take ownership of your own career.
Roman can figure out, oh, this is how you also know that like it's really odd. He released 5 videos, delayed, going into nationals over the last week, which makes so many questions. We learned about his travel problems. We learned about everything. And he had a video every day. And I was like, I don't think he's doing for the algorithm. Like, did he not edit them? But again, I'm like, okay, your mind is not focused. Like, you're not having this strategic plan every single day.
Interesting.
Like I work in social media. We have a plan to build things every single day. We study social media. We study the algorithms. We study the other videos in our space. I work in health insurance. We study what the other health insurance companies are doing, what kinds of things they're doing. What is their website like, right? Like it's that kind of determination that makes people better. And I don't see that from any of those boys. And
I agree with you. I also
Yeah.
don't see it with
I don't see it with a lot of
Federation.
American boys
the
either.
federation as a whole.
Yeah.
Why did they not go to local skating clubs and give them tickets to come watch nationals? I know that didn't happen.
Okay, so
They
my
go and
thing is,
hand out tickets at the local skating club. Why the local skating clubs? My husband told me that he was talking to a couple of coaches from around the area, and they said like none of the local skating clubs had posters of nationals in the rink.
how often does
These
it
are such simple
snow?
things.
How often does it get cold or snow in Calgary, right? Because like in Lake
Like
Placid,
all the time. This
right?
is
That's what the strange thing to me is. I'm like,
the cold has nothing to do with this.
people were blaming it. They said it is really cold. And I get that people don't want to go out, but this is not why. That's not why.
The tickets weren't bought. Nobody had a ticket and chose not to go out.
No.
You could see the ticket sales on Ticketmaster the day before the competition or 2 days before. You could see
started with
everything.
the men. It starts with the fact that Canada's skating is on Daily Motion and not on YouTube. It also is the fact that they don't even break it up by skater. Like they're not making the sport accessible. Every decision that they're making is wrong, right? Like it's great that they have a live event, but you have to put it where the people are. It's not just about it being free. It's about people finding it so they can find your sport, so that they can watch nationals, so that people are in the crowd, so that people will watch and be like, oh, I want to be a
People will
part of that.
talk about it.
But you want skating, like you got into skating, probably there was a crowd. There was skating that was enjoyable. There are changes that need to be made to the rules, right? But they also need to look at like ways that they can make skating accessible and make it look attractive and then make it look like it's something you want to do. Granted, no one watched it because it was on Daily Motion. There's no way to find it. But if you did watch skating and you see an empty arena and people falling all over the place, that's nothing that someone's going to watch and then be like, oh, I should join, right? I should go do learn to skate or can skate, right? It's like you have to make it attractive, accessible, public, so that that 5-year-old kid can be like, I want to go skating. You just annihilated future skaters from even wanting to join by putting things behind
it goes so much lower down than nationals. So like I have a lot of like little students, 5, 6, 7 years old, and they want to compete at local competitions. And like they can't get a spot in the competition. The registration opens at noon. And like, what if you're a working parent and at noon you can't log into your computer? At 12:01, the event's full, no spots. How is this helping kids stay in the sport? Because if I'm a mom and I'm investing all these hours a week into my kids skating and they can't compete, I'm going to take them out and put them in a sport that they can do competitions in.
Yes.
I got so mad when this happened to my little skater. This is like new to me, but apparently in Ontario, it's been happening for years. And I've always heard about it, but I never like personally experienced it. There's so few competitions. Ontario is like a really big province. So like they're spread out everywhere. And it's like impossible to get in. So like my one student, her mom had to like take time off work, have a babysitter for the baby so she could sit on her computer at 12 o'clock, log in, and at 12:02 be told your kid's 91st on the wait list. And then she's like, why are we doing this then? If my kid can't compete. And my question is, why for 3 years has this been happening and nobody has fixed this system?
Why aren't they adding another competition day.
Another day
group.
of the event, like open up
Yes.
Thursday maybe, so they can be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Another competition. Like there's like so many things. Why is it happening for a third year now? You are losing talented skaters from the bottom. They're not even getting the chance to enter high performance because of these issues. And this is a big problem in our sport in Canada.
And then they lose dues and they lose everything. I mean, oh my God.
This is ridiculous. Like when I was a kid, we just registered. It wasn't like you didn't have a chance for them to say no. Everybody could compete. They made the schedule according to however many people registered. But now, like, it's like, no, you don't get a chance.
What was your moment of Canadian nationals as we wrap up? Like, what was there any high point?
Like Anthony Paradis' long program, even though it wasn't like this great skate, I think he showed glimpses of like his potential. The composure that he held when he had his like equipment malfunction. I saw somebody on Twitter wrote like his like equipment malfunction almost like felt like it was part of the performance. I think it was Skating Scores that said that. And like I totally agree. Like I was like enthralled. Like
he's one of us. He was at the gym today. I got a message from him. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be at the gym for several hours." I was like,
who told you that?
Skating Scores.
Oh,
like we were messaging about something. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be at the gym."
Just at the gym, training for hours.
I was like, for what? I don't know. He was jump roping on Instagram. I had never seen what he looked like.
Oh, I don't follow them on Instagram. Maybe I should.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta follow him.
But yeah, I think like, and like for a moment, it made me excited, and it was like the first time I felt excited watching the Canadians this year. When I watched,
excited by everything.
When I watched Anthony like start his free skate, like I felt excited, and I was like, "Wow, I hope he wins." And like, there wasn't that much excitement, so yeah.
Anthony was my moment too, because I thought as a boy like that, who's, you know, not your football player, I was like, he just leaned into who he is. And at the end of the day, everyone kind of respects it and loves it. Even if it's like not your taste, you're like.
And yeah, it's like totally not my style of skating.
Yeah.
That's not usually the type of skating I'm gravitated to, but like I was, because he had the energy, he had the charisma, he had the presence.
I don't know what his costume was. And I don't know that I think it's like aesthetically pleasing to me, but I'm so glad that he wore it. And I'm so glad that we're all talking about what the hell that was.
I know, I'm going to tell you what his costume was because I saw his quote about it.
It looks like a bride was trying to climb out the window at a event and that it got like ripped, left on the sidewalk, and Anthony picked it up and wore it. Like that's kind
of. Well, that's not how he described it, but like I appreciate your description. He says it's super beautiful. It's kind of like a heartbreak. You get stabbed in the heart and then it bleeds, and it's just a beautiful thing.
You go, Anthony. Okay. Anthony also was skating on a lake doing a spin in a nice sweater, and I only studied.
Oh, yeah, like last winter, eh?
Yeah, and I only studied Anthony's Instagram because he wore that costume at Canadian Nationals, and
I was never like a fan of Anthony because I was always Skate Canada's been sending him to Junior Grand Prix for like 2 or 3 years now, and every summer he like I think it was this summer where he did an event and like not one triple was called clean. And then all of a sudden he was at a Junior Grand Prix and I was like, why are they sending him? And it really frustrated me. And I felt like seeing him at nationals like validated to me why they were sending him places.
I think he should consider solo dance if he doesn't get the triple axel because it's going international and he could win. But they need to figure out how to get him.
Well, the ISU is going to take solo dance.
Yeah.
But not synchro. That's going to like, well, wait. Into the ISU, but not into the Olympics.
Yeah, into the ISU, but they're going international, right? But I think
who's leading that like charge to allow that to happen?
I don't know, but we need to look at like all of the hot mess personalities in ice dance or singles who aren't going to make it, and like put them in this freak show to make it interesting, right? Like like
is solo dance like that much of a freak show?
Billy French from Junior, who was in the show Freeze. Best solo dance candidate. Okay, like that's what we need in solo dance, right? You need all of the artsy boys with all of their feelings and all of their costumes who are doing
Maybe it's the place where Kevin Amos can really shine.
It would be great for Kevin It would be perfection. Okay. Like Sylvia, Kevin Amos will make solo dance happen. All the artsy boys can cry all over the ice and just have their
And it would be beautiful. It would just be a beautiful thing.
Oh my God. It would be like rainbows and glitter and like emotions, and they can all be crying and they kiss and cry. A million like women like Sylvia Fontana at the boards. So, and I think also if we get all these artsy gays from all the other countries, like imagine the gays from France who could be in solo dance, Meagan.
Oh, like so dramatic. Yes.
Right? Think of that. Okay. We could put that on Instagram, right? Like, come on.
That'll build the sport. Who knows?
Imagine there's
the sport, like we talk about, like not me, but like people talk about the sport dying, but like the sport is thriving in Lithuania.
yeah.
Like, but they just did the things that like make sense.
Because
Just
they're thinking
did the
outside the
things that
box.
make sense. They advertised.
Mhm.
Like their Zamboni had like disco lights or something on it. They had a live orchestra at the gala. Like they just did all the right things that like seem so simple and obvious.
IMG has been doing, it's doing now what they did 25 years ago, and it's like it's not working because you're not putting any.
Well, I always was like, in Europe, they do live music at shows. Like, and it really makes a big difference because then you have people that come because they like the music, not just skating fans. So you could get more people in the rink. And they were like, we are in sports management, not like a theater or something like that. We're
You're in
sports.
empty arena management for dating
Yes.
shows. At this
Like,
point.
I was like, wow, like this was so smart. Like, who knew the people of Lithuania loved skating so much? Who knew it? And they should be holding all the events.
Honestly, like, and like, who's not managing Cizeron properly? Like, he should be like, I don't know, like in an Armani underwear ad or something, right? Like, he just like has that
I
vibe.
don't, like know these things. I don't know if I follow him either. I'm not sure.
But like, I just mean like the way that they're not marketing skaters in the right way. Like everybody is scared and doing the same things, and it's like, no, you actually have to be bold and go outside the box, and then
It's hard to be bold though, because like I'm one of the bold ones.
you're bold, Meagan. Is it?
And like Skate Canada hates me. They would never listen to my advice.
Right, but do you
Like
give
when I retired, I volunteered myself to be a team leader for Junior Grand Prix, and they were like, no thanks, we already have team leaders. Like if I think of myself as a junior skater and like a recently retired Olympic champion or world champion, what was going to team lead my Junior Grand Prix, like that would have been life changing for me. But like, no thanks, we don't need you.
But we all saw the
But
picture.
like, when
Wait,
you're
Meagan.
old,
I saw the picture on Facebook of Mike Slipchuk with all of your team gold medals around his neck as though he won that himself, and I was like, this is the problem. Like this is the problem. You didn't win that.
well, no.
Whoever called Patrick Chan on the phone and was like, Patrick, you're going to eat shit in the individual and you're going to be an Olympic champion forever in the team. That person like
I think it
deserves.
was Scott and Eric.
Yeah, they won that team gold medal. Okay, whoever did that, like, and Eric, like again.
Yeah, it was them.
And you know why they did it? Because they studied the points, they studied the field, and they were like, Patrick, get a clue.
This is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But
Did you have any doubt that Canada was going to win that team gold medal?
no.
No, exactly. Right.
Like, I mean, yeah, no. Like I was focused on myself delivering my part of the project,
but you felt good about the other people. You
felt very confident. I remember, like, I probably said this on your show before, like when Patrick skated, because the men's short, I think, came before us at both our team events, Sochi and Pyeongchang.
I would have been nervous.
I remember telling Eric, like, we are emotionally detaching from whatever Patrick is doing this afternoon. Like, we're so emotionally detached from the good or the bad of Patrick because we need to be on our own performance. I remember like setting the ground rules with Eric about that.
Wise move. And like low expectations and emotional detachment. That's what I would have done at that point.
Yeah, like good or bad. We can't be emotionally attached to what he has to do because we have a job to do.
Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. That's
like,
what
just going back to what I was like meaning with like being bold, like we need to speak up if we want to create change. We need these voices. We need people that are courageous enough to like kind of put themselves on the line. Like I would love to work within high performance. I would love it. High performance figure skating. Like Skate Canada would never, like, they are so scared of what I'm going to say. Like, they would never.
Why don't you have a business on the side? The gymnasts all do this when they graduate from college. They become motivational coaches. Why don't you become a high performance coach that you consult over Zoom, have a business, and have people call you? That way parents can figure out, like, what are we doing wrong? Why is my kid middling? Why, like, what am I, like, happening? And, like, you go through and you find the right people. This should be your business.
I could be like a good, like, just strategic coach for people all around.
Yeah. Like, you could study their points and be like, you're missing these points in your program. Get it together. You know, like,
the piece of the puzzle that I see missing right now.
Yes.
Let's look at how we can fill that.
If a parent is spending that much money on skating, they can pay whatever your hourly rate would be for, like, you know, whatever.
It's not 120, but yeah.
Hold it
Oh, interesting. I get the rink at 6:05, and
I have to be in the rink early. So
I'm gonna jet to bed from this like awkward corner of my basement in this hand-me-down rocking chair that I'm in.
All right. Well, this was fun. So
let's hope US Nationals has a little bit more energy, a little bit more life, and a little bit more standout performances. I hope I can watch it somewhere.
Okay.
It's hard to watch in Canada because like we don't have Peacock and all these things.
It's hard to watch skating in general right now. It's hard.
Maybe US Nationals will be on NBC though. I do have NBC.
Yes, it will be.
So that would be nice. And hopefully Worlds is on CBC so that I can be part of the commentary team because CBC still enjoys my commentary. So have a great night, Dave.
Bye, everyone. All right. I will post this. I'm sure it'll be good. People will talk. So this is
that's funny.
All right.
All the things.
All the things.
I am like my Monday mornings are so early. I have to walk the dogs at 5:30 to get to the rink. I have so many more little students now, so my schedule's kind of gotten crazy.
That's good.
I have a little 5-year-old Russian. I don't think her grandparents, it's like she lives with her grandparents. I don't think they know I'm banned from Russia yet. So I'm not sure how long I'll be coaching her, but once they find out like how hated I am.
You banned from Russia and not me. I don't understand. Like, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Why am I not banned from Russia?
Because like I signed a petition with our Olympic committee. So like me and Tessa and a bunch of people are banned.
But like they hate you.
Like you say a lot of shit too. I don't know why you're not banned.
Don't you think that like I think that they would forget that Tessa's banned, but they'd remember that you were banned?
Oh my God, of course they will. That'd be so like, but like
I don't know that you'd really be banned.
Ever go to Russia again in my life. Like I would never.
They would put you on national TV in Russia and like interview you. That's what they should do.
It's they're very interesting.
Love them the most. Oh my God.
I mean, I really, they're very interesting.
They hate Luna Hendricks because she said like one comment. So
well, I think that Dennis said it best that they have proven through their doping scandal and their negative comments about the skating right now or something. Dennis had a really good comment, like that they've just proved that they don't belong in our sport right now.
I would agree.
And there's a lot of work to do before they will belong in our sport.
I agree.
Have a good night, Dave. That was fun.